Hello. Hope everybody's doing good. This is Blind Hope with Rich, and obviously I'm rich, even though I feel quite poor. Anyways, today uh, on this episode, I wanted to talk about motivation, um, how we get motivation, how we keep motivation, how we build motivation. You know, there's a lot of areas that people fail to recognize. Motivation is something that's uh, it drives us in a certain direction. You know, it leads us to find a way that we can move forward. It gives us the drive and allows us to build momentum. You know, it's something that a lot of us, when we're feeling depressed, we're feeling sad, we're feeling like beat down, that we have trouble finding motivation to want to, get out of bed in the morning. It can be a very, very tough thing, and we have to figure out what we can do. Something that I was learning about here not too long ago is the fact that instead of making goals that are I want to be a better parent. you know Instead of just making that as a goal, think of the what can I do to be a better parent. Be more in touch with my children. I can be more, present in their lives. I can be more engaged in how they're doing with school. I can learn about, what they're into right now. There's set all these small goals up to get to the big goal. You know, Figure out what the big goal, is going to be. And it's great to have a big goal, but don't make that make there be small goals to achieve that bigger goal, because having the small goals allows you to build momentum, allows you to build so that you can move forward and start getting more geared up and more fired up to do this, achieve this bigger goal. Something else to keep in mind, is that if you have smaller goals, it allows the motivation to build easier, and it also keeps us from getting overwhelmed. We try and accomplish this monstrous goal, and we are overwhelmed, and we just shut down and throw in the towel. You know, let's talk smaller goals, ones that allow us to build momentum, allow us not to become overwhelmed, allow us to be able to keep moving forward, moving forward, moving forward. Even through the tough times, we're still able to put a foot forward, because motivation starts truly with taking the first step. When you take that first step, then you're moving forward. For those of you out there in the blind community, or visually impaired community, think about that. How are we going to freaking get moving forward again in our lives? That's a big question for a lot of people that have vision impairments. We start feeling hopeless. We start feeling down. We start feeling, that we're unable, that we're going to have to depend on somebody the rest of our lives for everything. I tell you right now, I have met some people that have been blind from birth. I've met some people that have lost their vision, later in their life. You know, and I hear them sharing with me all this motivation and positive energy. It just like exudes out of them. And I'm just like, wow, that is such a way to go. I'm like, I need some of that. So I ask them, how do you do that? How do you find that desire? And they're like, I'm just enjoying my life. I'm allowing things to be enough. I don't put these, outlandish expectations on things. And I'm just like, wow. Because for me, I'm sitting there thinking, you know, I'm going to have a lot of trouble, because I'm 53 now, and I lost my vision March 28th, 2025. And I did not have positivity exuding out of my pores. I did not have motivation exuding out of my pores. I tried and I kept trying, but man, I kept feeling like I was getting beat down. I was feeling defeated. I was feeling depressed. I was feeling like, poor me, poor me. And believe me, folks, when I get on the poor me pity pot, I'll be asking somebody for some reading materials because I'll be sitting on that pity pot for a while if I don't make a change, if I don't get up out of the muck and start putting one foot. That's it. Just one foot to start the motivation moving forward. That's what it takes. We got to start with one foot at a time. It'll get us moving. And then we can start building some momentum, you know, but build the momentum through achieving and having successes, you know. Some of us, man, I've ran into people that are just amazing with you know, they got blindness, they got hearing problems, they got other physical issues, mental health issues, and they're still happy. They're still feeling the love and giving love to people. You know, it's not they throw in the towel and they go hide under the blankets, or they start listening to all these you know, sad stories on TV, or they get on these podcasts about people that are having, that are having tough times in their lives, and don't do that. Don't get into those moods. Keep looking for positives. You know, people that I work with, clients of mine. You know, I tell them every time you have a negative thought, I want you to identify three positive ones to replace that negative one. You know, a negative one for me could be I'm overweight. Yep, that's true. I know round is a shape, and therefore I'm in shape, but not quite the shape that I want. But the reality is, what are three positives? Uh, I could be a lot more overweight. So, I'm positive, that I'm not in that bad of a shape. I have the ability to lose weight. It's not a permanent thing for me unless I choose for it to be. You know, I have, you know, people that want to help me if I ask for help for that. I have somebody that I work with once a week, and this cat comes in. He's half my age, and he comes in and hey, what's going on? To pat him on the arm, and I'm like, this guy has freaking guns. I mean, ooh, he's selling tickets to the gun show. And this guy is in shape. He tells me about what he eats and the exercise he does and how early in the morning he gets up to go exercise. I'm like, you lost me with early in the morning, man. Sorry. I mean, I could get on board with his diet, you know. But, I couldn't get up at 4 in the morning and start my day. If I'm getting up at 4 in the morning, my age is probably to go to the bathroom. But anyways, you know, also something else I want to talk about as far as people that have lost their motivation. This is a big thing, because it actually pertains to my job field because I'm, like I've said in previous video, I'm a program director. I counsel people that have substance abuse disorders. So you have to keep in mind that I run into a lot of people that have some depression, some sadness, some hurt, some loss, some pain that they're feeling and they're using substances, whether it's the alcohol, the weed, the pills, the whatever. They use something to be numb, so they don't have to feel those painful feelings, And I tell them though, I was like, stop, you got to stop this. What happens when you get back to reality? What happens when the numbness goes away? Your problem that you have that you don't want to feel your way through is still sitting there. It's kicked back in the lawn chair just waiting, waving at you. Hi, still here waiting. You've got to walk through that pain. You've got to find the motivation to get through to the other side. what is the motivation for some of that pain that we feel when we feel loss? You know, we don't call, a person's passing a celebration of life for nothing. I mean, the positive way of looking at them. Let's celebrate the freaking fabulous life this guy has, this girl has. You know, let's celebrate the good times that we've gotten to share with them, whether it's a lot, whether it's a little. We find positive, we find the motivation. It's how we look and perceive what we got going on. I mean, we can find motivation even in some of the darkest times. I remember this quote, and I want to kill this quote. But it says, in the darkest of times, all that you have to do is turn on the light. And I thought, wow. I was like, okay, find the positive, get out of the darkness, find your motivation, find your drive, find what you love to do. Get those hobbies, get those, be of service to others if it lifts you up, if it makes you feel good to help somebody else. Get out and do that. It can be something simple like you need some help taking those groceries to the car. It can be, hey, you doing okay there? You look a little sad. You want to talk? You know, I mean, I'm not trying to tell you to be some licensed counselor. By all means, don't do that if you don't want it. But just be able to be present if somebody needs you, and that helps somebody so much. You know, to help people not to be alone, help people not to have to face this challenge, whatever it may be. Help them not to face it, by themselves. Help them, which will help you. Because it makes a person feel good to know that, man, I helped that guy out. Man, that was a good thing. That's good. But let's go back and let's focus more on the motivation stuff. Like I said just a second ago, don't use substances, whether it's the alcohol, whether it's the weed, whether it's the whatever, don't use that stuff you know, to try and fix what ails you. You know, I know some people, and I'm not saying that if it's medical marijuana, I know it's out there nowadays, and I know that, I think all but like 9 states have it legalized. I personally am in one of the 9 states that have not legalized it in Kansas. And even if it was legalized, I wouldn't be smoking the marijuana. You know, I'm a recovering drug addict, so I won't be going to the weed if it gets legalized. Because I mean, alcohol is already legalized. I don't go drink it. You know, to fix my stress, to fix my sadness, to fix my, I don't need that stuff to fix me. What I need is love and support. I have people that care about me. And if you guys don't have people that care about you, what kind of people are you hanging out with? Huh, that's a question. Are those really that good people? It's just a thought. You know, kind of ask yourself sometimes, you know, what can I do? Having a positive support network. I got people that I can call, and I do call them. Believe me, I talked to one earlier today just to touch base and say hi. How you doing? Hey, this is what I'm doing. This, what are you doing? And it just lifts my spirits because it's been somebody that I've talked to on and off since well, 12 years now. I've talked on and off with this guy, and he's an amazing guy. I always joke with him and call him a hillbilly, but he's the in a previous my previous episode of this channel, I shared that I had a buddy up in Atchison that came up with "too blessed to be depressed." That statement, and I told him I was going to steal that statement. I've stolen it for years, but the reality is that is such an awesome statement, and he is such a happy, enjoy life kind of guy. It It's really amazing. I always call him a hillbilly because, well, he's a hillbilly, but he's also an amazing dude. And there ain't nothing wrong with being a hillbilly. So, anyways, what else can we think of? What else can we do to have the motivation to move forward in the good times, in the bad times, in those times in between? What can we do to stay motivated? I would love to hear you guys' comments on that. Put those in down below. I absolutely will check those out. I'm very interested to know how other people find and maintain motivation in their lives so that they can move forward, whether it's because they have vision impairments, whether it's because they're just, depressed, whether they have a mental health issue, whether they've lost somebody they are close to, what do you all do? Share with me about that. I truly am interested because the more I learn from all of you, I mean, I hope you get something from what I share, but I also wanted you guys to give me feedback, comment, you know, have you asked me if, have you thought about this kind of motivation? Have you did this motivation? Tell me what it is that can help, what works for you, because, I have my own, little brand of motivation that I use. I start out, uh, and I get some good music going, which gives me some energy in the morning. Definitely have a cup of coffee because you gotta have. I gotta have that. I gotta stay caffeinated. I always used to think of this. I think it was a Nirvana song, but I changed it to "You gotta keep them caffeinated." Hey, hey, weird stuff. I know. But if I was normal, I'd probably be pretty boring. So, anyways, I want you guys to sit here for a second and just think what can do to motivate me to do something that you're not wanting to do. The dishes, the laundry, the trash, litter box, you know, shovel snow. Right now, I don't have to worry about that, but maybe later tonight, we're supposed to have some here in Kansas. We'll see what happens. Anyways, you guys just got to try one step. Like I said earlier, one step is all it takes to start the motivation, the direction, or you want to go towards achieving something. Just start with the first step. That's it. You know, what is the goal you're going to achieve? Small goal, not that goal. Small goal. What are you going to achieve that you can do? You just get off your tush and do it. You know, is it I got to empty the dishwasher? Is it I got to rinse off the dishes? Is it I got to trash bag and you know and put the litter in it? I can take it outside, and then my cats have clean litter box. I mean, what? How I hope you guys understand how I'm trying to describe these small goals as to what they can be. Just simple things. You don't have to overthink them. Keep them simple, and the simple things will start building, and then that momentum starts flowing, and then you start moving harder, and you start wanting it more, and then bam! Before you know it, you're doing that big goal. You're on it. You just have to step up with that first step. I hope that helps you guys. Because I want you guys to find the motivation to keep moving forward. And my family with the vision impairments, blindness, you know, what are you guys doing? How are you guys staying motivated? You know, for me, I find it, right now I'm still, after almost a year, I'm still experiencing here and there. I'm feeling periods of sadness, um, of the vision loss. You know, went 52 years of my life, and the lights went out. Man, it's sad. It really is. Um, 'Cause, I flash back to thinking about, oh man, I wish I could see the world, see the color, see the people's faces that I know, see the people who I'm meeting when I go to conventions, when I go to group meetings, when I go to, the new clients that I work with. I wonder what they look like. I hear what they sound like, and I hear what they talk about, and all that, but I really don't have a clue, what it looks like unless I straight out, just ask, hey, could you describe to me what you look like? Hmm. Is that something anybody else that has blindness has ever done? I would really love to know if that's okay to do, because it feels kind of weird to me thinking talking about that. And I don't know if that's okay, you know. But I miss things out there in the world. Love to get behind the steering wheel and drive a car again. And I remember hearing stories of I'm not going to say any names, but a country singer years ago that he he was blind. He'd get behind the steering wheel. His band would be in the car with him, and one of his band members would be behind him in the back seat, right behind him. He'd be driving, and the band member would be tapping the guy. The band member would be tapping the guy on the shoulder. A little ride, you know. The guy would be driving, and the guy got pulled over. Famous country singer got pulled over, and you know how fast you're going? The officer asked him. He goes, "No, I can't really see that too well." And the officer realized who the country singer was, and uh, it, what the story sound I was told, the cop lost his biscuits. He couldn't believe that this man that was completely blind was driving down the street. So man had motivation. He didn't give up. He found a way to do it. It might not. I'm not saying to do it by any means because it's not legal. So don't do it. I hope. Um, but anyways, there was motivation in his action. You know, that feels awesome. So those that have vision impairments, blindness, please share with me in your comments how you find your motivation on days that are tough. What drives you to want to keep going instead of sitting there and just crying because you realize you're going to be missing some stuff. Because for me at least, they don't have a cure yet. For my vision loss. I had a doctor at KU uh, that said that in 5 or 10 years they'll have uh, be able to put a microchip in my head, and it'll be receiving a signal from a camera that'll go on my glasses on the arm, and it'll project. The camera will send the picture to that chip, which will create the picture in my head. So I would be seeing again without the eyes, which is pretty cool. You know, I that would get here tomorrow, but no such luck. Okay, my life is still good. That's something that I do. Speaking of my life is good, um, motivation I have is because my life is good. I have a nice house. I have a fabulous wife, and I got to put a plug in for my wife. She is trying to be a makeup influencer on YouTube. She does have her own channel, and she is started and getting pretty good. And when I had vision, I can still remember some of the makeup she did. She did some of the most beautiful makeup. Um, but now she's got her own channel. It's called Just Another Beauty Guru. And, and my wife's name is Susie. And she is amazing. Not just as in makeup, because I know she's still really good at makeup because when we go out in public, repeatedly gets told, "Man, I love your makeup. Man, your makeup is awesome, man. That's how did you do that? That creativity." She gets all these compliments and stuff, and I'm just like, she's good. She's just not getting noticed yet. So, I'm hoping that I'm going to put her out there, regularly. So if y'all enjoy, I don't care if you're a guy or a girl, if you enjoy makeup, check it out. She also has some interesting stories she shares. Sadly, some of them I think are about me, but my life is good today. And that's a motivation I have because I want it to stay good. So I wanted to keep directing it down this path that I'm on. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. So I keep getting what I'm getting, for one, because if I keep doing what I'm doing, well, why would I not keep getting what I'm getting? I mean, according to life on life's terms, we're going to have good days, we're going to have bad days, and we're going to have days somewhere in between. Either way, though, I stay motivated to try and keep moving forward. Well, I have a buddy of mine that's speaking like 2.5 hours from here, and I'm hoping, weather permitting and everything, that my wife and I can make the road trip uh, to hear him share a story, his story, of recovery. I want to hear and support him because the man cares about me. He's got a big heart. I could call him and he would sit and listen to me and share his experience with me, his strength with me, his hope with me. You know, find those kind of people. Find what it takes to keep moving forward on a positive path once you've gotten on it. You know, it's kind of like if you ever go to a bowling alley, some of those lanes have these little bumper guards or gutter guards, I guess, that they can raise up for little kids. Just think about your life on a path that has those little guards on each side, and you just keep moving down and bumping into things. Stay on the path. You know, I stay working because well, I feel good helping people. I feel good being able to be in the workforce, and I feel good. I'll be honest, I feel good receiving a respectable paycheck. You know, because then I get to use that paycheck fun with my wife, with my son, with my daughter, with my folks. I get to go do things, and I love that. You know, I got a family that's a recovery family. I got a family that's a biological family. I got all sorts of people that help me stay on the path. And when I'm losing my motivation, guess what I can do? Easiest thing in the world for most people. Yeah, I can call somebody and say, "Man, I'm having a tough day. Can I talk to you for a second?" And man, get in a conversation, start feeling better. And thanks for letting me share, man. You know, just that easy. It's just that easy, to alleviate some of that negativity in you. Because, they say when you share the load that you carry is lessened. Hmm. So when I talk to somebody about what I got going on, the challenges I'm facing, the tornado in my head, it starts slowing down. Well, what if I share it with more than one person? Oh, it slows down more. I hear somebody that has some experience on what I'm going through, and and they can help me, man, look at that. There's some ways of finding motivation right there. Just reaching out and asking, talking to your support. Find your support if you don't have it. That should be one of your first things. Find a positive support system. It can be family, it can be friends, it can be, I have friends, God, I still contact a couple of my friends that I've known, well, since I was a kid. And it's kind of weird that I do that um, because their life has gone so different than when we were kids, you know. And sometimes they're having tough days, I'm listening to them. Sometimes I'm having tough days, they listen to me, and we staying motivated and moving forward. We helping one another, If I don't got I can borrow somebody's shoulder to lean on, and they'll walk me through this. And I'm not going to try and get into all this religious, stuff. Everybody, whatever your religion is, that's yours. That's for you to have and hold as you will. For me, I believe there is a higher power. I don't know what it is. I don't need to throw a name on it. I just know that, for me, a higher power walks beside me. And it reminds me when I was young, I remembered reading this thing. It was on my mom's wall. It was Footprints in the Sand. I know many of you have to have heard about this little footprints in the sand thing. It talks about, seeing two sets of footprints as you're walking uh, your path in the sand, and then you see only one set, and you're like, my higher power left me, you know. And your higher power responds with, I didn't leave you. That's when I was carrying you. Oh, wow. And I'm not saying, y'all gotta believe in, in a power greater than yourself or the higher power or, whatever you want to believe. But, for me, that's one of those things that can be motivational to me also. You know, I throw a prayer out there, most mornings, and depends on if I'm on autopilot or, if I'm decided not to get out of bed in time, then maybe a prayer doesn't come out until I get to work. But, like I said, I don't want to dive into some religious thing. I want this, to be something that you guys can relate to. I know that you all can relate to going through some tough times. I don't care what your age is. Uh, I know little kids that are going through tough times. And it's really not that big of a thing. But for somebody that's a little kid, it's like a freaking trying to climb the side of a skyscraper. You know, it's massive to them, and just being there for them to let them talk about it and share what they feel, you're motivating them to talk more, to get out of their head. You're their motivation, and you're not even trying to, but you're helping. It's something to always keep in mind, you guys. Find your motivation to move forward in life. Because, I hear people talk about, oh, I'm really just kind of stuck here. I'm standing still. And you're not moving forward. Here's a question. If you're not moving forward, are you actually sliding backwards? Are you falling into complacency, procrastination? I don't know. Could be. Yeah, I've heard people talk about that. That if they're not working on moving forward in their life, then they're probably backsliding, and they got to dig in and start working it a little harder. Because if you're not getting what you want, chances are you probably need to do something else. Or if you're not getting enough of what you want, chances are you probably better do something else, huh? I mean, keep doing the same thing, you keep getting the same thing, like I said earlier. If that's not enough, what kind of changes are you willing to make? Also, you know, what can we do to be able to say, this is enough? When you get to that point that you're able to say, hey, I got this, I got this, I got this. This is great stuff. This is enough. I am happy with what I got. Man, and those things that you got, whether it's just a wife, kids, husband, you know, fabulous neighbors, support system, parents that are just, you know, love you to death, whatever it might be, man, let them know you love them and you appreciate them. It's a glorious thing, y'all. But anyways, I'm going to start rambling if I keep going too long because I love the topic of motivation because I try to be motivating not only to myself but to others, by how I communicate. So if I am able to communicate in a way that I can be of service, lift somebody up, that's all I need. Makes my day, motivates me to keep going. So I hope you all have a fabulous Sunday, and I hope you all have a fabulous next week. So you all be safe. Look for the positive. If you have a negative, come up with 3 positives. It'll get your day going on the right track. All right? Thank you all. Talk to y'all soon. Bye bye.